Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 9th and tonight's classic is The Omen. The Omen is a 1976 horror movie directed by Richard Donner, who you might also know as the director of the original Superman movies and the Lethal Weapon series. The Omen is the first movie this month that I don't think stood the test of time at all. I didn't think this was very good. I thought it was kind of annoying and extremely silly. I'm giving this a 4 out of 10. The movie starts at 6 a.m. on June 6th. Proving just how subtle the movie is going to be going forward. There's this couple who had a stillborn baby. For some reason, the dad knows, but the mom doesn't. And through something where he goes to a Catholic church and asks for stuff, he ends up taking a baby that was left at the church that very same day, and the mother died giving birth to the child. You never see the mother. You never know who she is. And it's both him coming to this conclusion and the priest kind of convincing him of this. He takes the child and gives it to his wife and saying that this is the child that she gave birth to. So it's a really shady thing to do. And honestly, I think it doesn't come off very well from the dad, sort of saying, I don't trust you to handle reality. Here's a lie. But whatever, they take the child and raise it as their own. And as it turns out, that child is the Antichrist. Now, when I was going into this movie, I was expecting it to be something completely different than it ended up being. What I thought that The Omen was going to be was that, the main villain is going to be the child, and it's going to be, the battle of trying to fight against someone that you raised, someone that's part of your family. I thought that maybe the mom would have a lot of internal struggles with it because that is still her son. I thought that it was going to sort of be a battle between the child and the parents, but as it turns out, the child is barely in this movie. A lot of it is just following the dad around as he comes to the mystery, finding out stuff that's very apparent to the audience. One of the most constant silly things in this movie is its score. Apparently, this movie got an Academy Award for its score, which I find very strange considering that the score is this overblown operatic, satanic chorus thing that plays over and over whenever something even mildly disturbing happens. It takes away from the experience because it's so overblown, especially considering how silly a lot of the deaths in the movie actually are. Some of these deaths are Final Destination level of stupid and contrived and weird. The Omen might feature the silliest decapitation death I have ever seen in a movie. I'll go into detail during the spoiler section of the video, but just rest assured, it's ridiculous. The child himself doesn't really do that many evil things in this movie, so I would actually consider the main villain of this movie to be the nanny that they get, Mrs. Baylock, and they don't seek her out and then she just happens to be a Satanist. She literally tracks them down and forces herself as the nanny and claims the agency. She doesn't even specify at all. She just says the agency sent me when they heard in the papers that your nanny hanged herself, and she did. She says, Damien's the name of the kid. I love you so much. It's so much I love you. And then she hangs herself in front of everybody. It's implied that in most of the movie, she's training him to be a good little Antichrist, and she's the one who gets him to do the few evil stuff that he ends up actually doing in the movie. The Omen has seriously not aged well. I was told it was one of the scariest movies ever, and I didn't think it was scary at all. I was told that it had a great score, and I thought that the score was really stupid. I didn't like this movie. It's not my thing. Maybe you might like it, but you're certainly not going to hear any recommendations coming from me. Alright, let's talk about some spoilers. One of the characters in this movie is a photographer who came across something weird when taking pictures of a priest that is trying to warn the father of, the Antichrist, stuff like that. And I actually thought that was the same priest who, convinced him to take the baby, but apparently that was a different person. They just sort of looked alike, or at least I thought they did. And what happened was that whenever he took a picture of the priest, there was this long, faded black line, coming down and stopping at his back. And that was supposed to be a precursor to his death. And whenever he took a picture of that nanny, there was a line that extended up from the neck. And the death of that priest is kind of ridiculous. He's walking around in the park after he talked to the dad about something, and there's wind, and then there's lightning that strikes a tree near him. And then he runs through a church, and right when he gets over the fence because it's locked, lightning strikes the fence. And then he tries to get into the church, and the church is locked. And then he steps back lightning strikes like a antenna that's on top of the church, and then it falls down and like perfectly impales him in the shoulder, and it's like really quick, and he's just like dead, just like that. This is sort of what I mean when I say that this is kind of like Final Destination level of contrived weird deaths. But that is nothing in comparison to the death of the photographer. When he took a picture of himself in a mirror, there was like this weird black line that was going through his neck. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, death by decapitation. And they're like at a weird city that's like under like excavation or something. And due to something else, like he has to get into like this little pit to reach something, and this is like out in public, and this guy in a truck that has like panes of glass on the back of it parks near it but doesn't do the parking brake right, and the truck rolls backwards, and this sheet of glass comes like slides off of it and slices his head clean off. And the way it's done, it doesn't look like it cuts it looks like it just like barely taps his head and then it just flies off. It is one of the most ridiculous deaths I've seen in a horror movie. It's not the worst effect in the movie. The worst effect in this entire movie is like the makeup for like this guy who has a half melted face and it looks absolutely horrible. But no, like that scene was just ridiculous with the decapitation. So the movie ends with the dad, like, finally, like, he went through a lot of the third act saying, I'm gonna kill this kid to save, I don't know, the world or whatever. And because the kid ends up killing the mother. So, actually, no, it wasn't even the kid who killed the mother. Again, the kid is such a non-presence in this movie. It was the nanny that killed the mother by pushing her out of a hospital, like, that was, like, 4 stories up, and then she falls into an ambulance, and the ambulance, like, opens up. Like, I thought it was gonna crumple, but no, she falls right through the roof and lands perfectly on like a gurney. It was, again, a lot of the deaths in this movie are just weird more than anything else. But he has to like do this ritual where he brings the kid into church and like stabs him specifically in several places with a knife. And of course, like he gets the police attention because he's acting like a maniac and he gets shot. And the movie ends sort of like how I thought it was going to end, with the kid like turning to the camera and like giving like an evil smile indicating that the Antichrist is going to take over the world or whatever. The Omen didn't hold up to me because it didn't focus on any of the right things. There is not really any atmosphere to speak of in this movie. There's just a Gregorian chorus squealing at you the entire time. The acting is okay, I guess, but the writing isn't very good. I didn't really like any of the characters. And there's not much suspense in this movie because all the mystery that's been trying to be solved is stuff that the audience could easily guess. This movie might have been really good at its time, but to me at least, it does not hold up at all. It's not horrible, obviously. It's not like one of the worst I've ever seen, but I didn't think that this movie was very good. That's just my opinion, though. Like it if you want, I just don't. I'll see you tomorrow.